All right, what's going on, y'all? I've got a highly anticipated video for y'all. Today, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the computer, and I'm gonna show you my workflow and my strategy to take a store from 0 to 6 figures per month with Facebook ads for Shopify dropshipping. This is definitely a highly anticipated video, something I get asked quite a bit, so that's what we're gonna do today. But before we jump into the computer and get into it, if you guys could please do me a huge favor, smash that like button down below, hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'm here to help you guys grow your own successful businesses so you can have the freedom lifestyle. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to go and connect with you guys down there, answer any questions you've got, and then that's also how I choose the weekly consultation giveaway winner. So definitely leave a comment down below, but let's go ahead and jump on into the computer and get into it. All right, so if you haven't noticed, this week we're changing up settings a little bit. Our Lovesac couch came in this week and it is insanely comfortable. This thing is absolutely killer. It's definitely not cheap, but if you guys like couches and you spend a lot of time on a couch or whatever, I highly suggest at least looking into Lovesac. It's actually killer. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So what I'm gonna be doing is walking you through the steps I use. So, you know, some people like engagement ads, some people like conversion ads. I'm gonna be walking you through the steps I use to test products, test them for potential, and then I'm gonna be walking you through how to then actually scale those up. Now, each step I get to, I'm not gonna be able to go into each individual thing. That would take 10 plus hours to go ahead and nail down absolutely everything. I'm gonna give you the steps, and then on my channel, I've got the detailed videos on each individual step. But this will go ahead and give y'all a really, really good idea and breakdown of how to do it. So the very first thing you do, after you've done your product and your supplier research, after you've already nailed that down, and you have a product that you think has very, very good potential, the first thing you want to do is run a PPE ad. Now, with a PPE ad or engagement ad, the thing is with these, a lot of people think that this is actually to go ahead and test the product. This is under the testing phase, but this is not to actually quote unquote test the product. You're not going to go ahead and use an engagement ad and know whether that product is a huge winner. You might get an idea if it's gonna be a huge dud, but even with that, I typically always go to the next step after this. The reason you wanna use an engagement ad is this is going to go ahead and really, really beef up the learning process of the ad set itself. So I've talked in several other videos about how each individual ad has its own unique ad ID, and it goes through a learning process where Facebook actually learns who to best target with that ad set, with, you know, the demographics you used, everything like that. This is what you really, really want to use the PPE ad for when you go ahead and get to the next step. You've already gone ahead and done this for really cheap. You've already gone ahead and beefed up your learning process for very, very, very cheap. And that's the main reason you really want to use engagement ad. The second thing that comes along with it is social proof. So when we're using engagement ads, we're using PPE ads, we're not doing it to test the product. We're doing it to go ahead and beef up our learning process and to go ahead and get social proof with likes, comments, shares, everything like that. It might give us an idea of how it's going to perform, but this is how we want to do it. I typically run this for 1 to 2 days at $5 per day. I rarely ever have an engagement ad higher than this. So with our engagement ad, I'll actually go ahead and group countries together. Typically, I'll only use one interest or demographic set, but for the actual countries used for this, I typically will have around 3 to 5 countries that I put in here, all English-speaking countries. And then in conversions ads, that's where we really start to break it up. All right, so after we go through an engagement ad, this is where we actually are going to actually go through the testing process of our ads. So this is where we're actually gonna run conversions. This is where we're actually trying to get sales with that product. And this is where we'll see if the product has any potential or not. Now, one thing that I wanna caution y'all on, be very careful using lookalike audiences to test products. Unless your product is very, very, very similar to a decent or winning product you have used in the past, I would be very careful using lookalike audiences when testing. This is something that I've seen a lot of beginners do lately, and it's not what I would recommend. If you follow this workflow, then when you get to that step, that's when you're really gonna be having huge numbers. You don't wanna skip this step. So right here, this is where You know, I recommend, it depends on your budget, how much you actually want to go ahead and do with this, but I always would do at least 3 ad sets at about $10 per day. I found $5 per day to typically be too small, especially depending on the country you're targeting it in, too small to really spread evenly throughout a 24-hour period. And then I found that, you know, much over $10, you don't really want to go ahead and get that aggressive in the testing process unless you already know that the product is a winner, and you need to absolutely know that. So this is where I break these up by typically two interest groupings. So I'll have, you know, my ad sets, I'll have one that is one interest grouping, another will be a different interest grouping, and I go by competitors. Sometimes I'll use other methods, other different targeting techniques that, you know, I talk about in like the Dropship Fortune course. I have a ton of different options in there that a lot of people don't know to use, but the main one that I always typically use is competitor targeting. But the way that I really see if a product has potential is by going into group 1 countries. And what I mean by group 1 countries, if you've watched my other videos, then you know I have a round 1, a round 2, and a round 3 list of countries. Round 1, group 1, is what I'm actually testing the product with for potential. And I've got, you know, different countries in this list, so I recommend go check out that video after this. But they're not just big 5. I've got a list of countries that I know if it's profitable or at least making sales in one of these countries, it most likely has a ton of potential in many, many other countries. And then that's where the round 2 and round 3 countries come in to really scale it up. So the big focus on right here and with the testing with conversions ads is really nailing it down by country. So typically, if I was to do 3 ad sets, then actually I would only have 1 interest grouping. It'd be all competitors. And then I would have 3 countries. So I'd have 3 ad sets of all the same interests, but the only difference I would be doing with it is having 3 different countries, and that could be United States, United Kingdom, Netherlands, and there's a couple other countries that I would use. Typically when I'm testing, I'll do more than 3, but you know, I've been doing this quite a bit longer than most people out there. I've been doing this for a few years and I've got a bigger budget. If you're, you know, just starting out, you're just learning and you don't have that big of a budget, I would be very careful just doing a ton of ad sets at one time, because I know some people recommend you do 10 ad sets at one time. You don't need 10 ad sets just to know if a product has potential. So once you get past this point, hopefully you're profitable at this point. Once you actually have some profitability, now's where we get into scaling. So now's where we get into those other techniques. Typically what people do with this is they're immediately going to go ahead and jump into lookalike audiences. What I recommend you do is stick with WC, stick with conversions. And what you're gonna be doing here that's different than what we were doing in the testing phase is, one, you're gonna be vertically scaling. I don't want this to be your main focus. This is what everybody focuses on, and this is not the way to scale fast. If you wanna scale fast, you need to do horizontal scaling. But vertical scaling, you're gonna be raising your budget every few days. Go ahead and watch my other Facebook ads videos where I talk about actually meeting a Facebook ads employee and him talking about the scaling process. This is where a lot of people make the mistake. They scale the budget too quickly. What happens there is it can actually wipe out and change the ad ID associated to your ad to where the entire learning process, every bit of learning that's already happened with that ad gets wiped out. And then the other mistake a lot of people make is they duplicate. So here's the thing. There's a lot of methods that work with Facebook ads, and there's a lot of methods that work with Shopify, doing one product stores or doing general stores. There's a lot of things that work. It just depends what works well with you. And I'm not saying duplicating doesn't work. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money with duplicating. But if we're looking on paper, black and white, getting very, very scientific with it, per what Facebook recommends, but not only what they recommend, what actually happens to the ad itself if you duplicate your ad, or if you scale too quickly and you make too dramatic of a change, you are wiping out every bit of learning attached to that. That is by Facebook. That's coming out of Facebook's mouth. So that's where I highly recommend you don't duplicate. You edit the budget, and to vertically scale, you scale no more than 20 to 40% every couple of days. You want to leave a few days in between each edit to, one, avoid any huge changes that would wipe out your ad ID, and then two, that way it goes through the relearning process at the new budget. What happens is, let's say you were at $10 a day, and now you raise the budget to $15 per day. Your ad set was optimized for $10 per day. It knows how to accurately spend that $10. Once you raise it to $15, it now needs to learn how to efficiently spend $15 over the day to still keep the cost per conversion low. So keep that in mind, guys. So right here, we're gonna be focusing on vertically scaling. This is where we're going to horizontal scale, and this is the main focus here. Horizontal scale by going global. And when I say going global, I don't mean doing worldwide targeting. I don't like worldwide targeting because you can't go ahead and scale it up as much. Right here, what I mean by this is you want to go ahead and start with your round one countries, and then once you have your round one countries done, let's say you've got a list of 5 to 10 round one countries, and you found out that your product works in 4 of the 8 that you've gone ahead and tested. Great, you're now going to be vertically scaling those up, and you're getting lookalike audience data, and that'll come in a second. But now you'll also then target your round 2 countries, and your round 2 countries might be a list of 15 to 20 countries, and hopefully you have at least 10 of these work out, and then you go through and you're actually going through your round 3 list of countries. And this is where you've got countries that typically don't work out, but you are trying to find every country that this product works out in. This is how you can scale very quickly, guys, how you can scale to 6 figures per month in a very short period of time, because most people aren't going global with it. They're not testing every country possible, and you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. You really only need, $10 per day for 2 days per country to know if this is going to work out or not. So once you've done this, you're going to be going ahead vertically scaling all of these. But what's going to happen is, once you get the sales coming into all these countries, now you're going to go ahead and move into lookalike audiences. And now this is where you can really scale out. You're going to be scaling vertically and horizontally with this. I typically start with lookalike audiences of 1 to 10%, and I start with my best country. So if United Kingdom's been performing the best with me, I'll start with that, and then I'll move down. But for every country that's given me quite a bit of sales, I will use lookalike audiences for those countries, and then I start breaking it up by percentages. I'll start with 1 to 10%, but then I'll start actually breaking it up and then do a 1%, and then I'll do a 2 to 5%. I'm just giving you examples here. I'll do a 5 to 10. You want to go ahead and really find every type of ad set that works. That way you can scale it up. But horizontal scaling, creating more ad sets, targeting different things. You could be targeting different interests, even though I don't go that route really. If I've got an interest set that's working, I might test a few others. But here's where I'm really creating tons and tons and tons of ad sets. If you look in my ad account, I've got hundreds of ad sets per just one product. But that's how one product can take you from 0 to 6 figures per month very quickly. The big key here is, guys, go ahead in the very beginning, find which countries work without lookalike audiences. Once you have regular conversions ads running for you that are profitable, then this is when lookalike audiences only beef it up. Too many people focus so much on just having good lookalike audiences, and that lookalike audiences are great, but you should already be making money with just regular conversions ads. And keep in mind too, guys, before you just jump straight into a video ad or an image ad, make sure you've already gone ahead and chosen which type of ad to work. But once you get to this stage right here, this is where you're going to be testing everything. You want to test everything, split test everything from your ad copy, split test just the ad copy. It's just like when you're in science class and you had your, doing an experiment, you had a control and then you had variables. You want to go ahead, when you're split testing, keep everything exactly the same, but change up one thing. So if you've got something that's working, have an ad set A and ad set B. Everything is the same except change up the copy. See which copy performs better. Then do another split test. Change up an image versus a video, or change up an image versus another image. Then you can go ahead and split test your interests. You can split test everything. And it's essentially in the beginning, you're split testing countries, but I don't really call it that because you're going ahead and you're trying to find which countries work. But the whole point is, this takes work to go ahead and get to 6 figures per month, but it's obviously very, very beneficial if you do that. And once you get it set, you're good to go. You know it works, and you're squeezing out a ton of potential. There's almost 8 billion people worldwide. I still don't understand why people aren't going global with this and aren't doing horizontal scaling. So then from here, we want to go ahead and make sure that we're retargeting. And retargeting, sometimes I do right off the bat. I might go ahead and start retargeting for that product, you know, right as I'm going through and just starting the horizontal scaling process. You want to be retargeting right off the bat. One thing that I've seen work really well is carousel ads. Work well with retargeting, but there's several different techniques that work well with retargeting. I actually used to be against carousel ads for just regular conversions ads. Right now, they're actually performing quite well depending on your product type. That's a little hint, but I would go ahead and try that out. But if you go through and you follow these steps, the big thing is in the beginning, your testing phase. Your testing phase, you don't want to be spending a lot of money here. You want to go ahead and spend, you know, under $120. Find out if the product has potential. If it has potential here and you've got profitability, then you're going to go ahead and really, really scale out with a massive focus of finding exactly which countries work. Your round 1, your round 2, your round 3. By the end of your testing round 3, you've pretty much tested the entire globe. You want to go ahead and do that. Now you should have tons of ad sets already working that you're scaling up slowly and carefully, but you're scaling up the budget every couple of days. Then you're going to be moving into lookalike audiences. As these countries start having a lot of sales, and it's typically countries like the United States, United Kingdom, if you're doing Netherlands, if you're doing Germany, Canada, if you're using these countries, they're typically the first. You'll move into lookalike audiences. With lookalike audiences, I start 1 to 10% right off the bat, but I know people that start 1%. I know people that start just 10%. So this is up to you how you want to do lookalike audiences, but then scale out horizontally with lookalike audiences, creating a lot of ad sets that way. So now in your ads manager for one product, you should have just regular conversion ads running, ad sets running, narrowed down by just the individual countries. And now you should have them with lookalike audiences. And then when you get here, you should have a couple for retargeting as well. If you've got this and you've got just a decent product, guys, this is how you go to 6 figures per month very quickly. And I've seen so many people do it. I have multiple students in the Dropship Fortune course doing it. We're having insane results coming out of Dropship Fortune 2.0 because I essentially take this and expand this to 10 hours. And I talk about the exact countries. I talk about different interest targeting types, and there's tons of those. I go into full depth, but the point is go ahead and really follow a strategy that you like and that's working for you, and hone in on that and double down on it. Don't be trying 7 strategies at once. I talked about this the other day, but this is a lot like playing blackjack. You don't go into a casino and have one strategy for one hand and then the next hand completely change up your strategy. That's how you lose up a lot of money. You stay consistent every hand. Even if you lose money on one hand, if you stay consistent with your strategy, assuming your strategy is good, then that's gonna give you the best odds. So with this, keep a strategy or 2 or 3. Let's say you're listening to 3 people, you've got 3 mentors, listen to those 3 mentors, stay with those strategies, and then once you have success with this, then you'll go ahead, and that's when I recommend testing everything. You know, once I've got a very profitable product like this and I've really scaled it out and I've got typically a couple months under my belt of doing 6 figures for just that one product, that's when I really test every single thing about that product. I order the product, white labeling, private labeling, and that's going into definitely more advanced stuff. But this should definitely get you going if you follow this, guys. So go from engagement to conversions and then focus on scaling, with the main focus being on horizontal scaling, guys. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this is a bit longer than usual, and I can go a little bit more in depth on all of these topics. If you want me to do that, leave a comment down below. Please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Keep grinding, y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.